Tonight's first order of business, short-term loans under scrutiny in America. A post-crisis agency designed to protect consumers will attempt to do what Canada has so far failed to do, create a national law governing the practice of payday lenders, those that prey on the most vulnerable, with short-term loans carrying interest rates that can be crippling. Here in Canada, provinces regulate the industry, and so far, little effort has been made to shield users from the worst kinds of abuse. Maybe the U.S. example will spur Canadian governments to action. Welcome to The Exchange. A move by U.S. regulators to tighten the rules for payday lenders is the first of its kind made and aims to shield the country's most economically vulnerable. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is working on a first draft of the regulations. It wants to put a limit on the loan terms drawn up at places like Cash Store and Cash Money. While such services promise fast cash and no credit checks, those short-term loans can come with interest rates that top 500%. An analysis of 15 million loans said the median annual income of those borrowing was about $22,400 within a year. The median number of loans they accessed was 10. And while the midpoint of loan sizes was $350, median fees, well, they were $458. 80% of those loans were renewed within 2 weeks, signaling many Americans are falling victim to a vicious cycle. Well, now the Bureau wants to cap the size and duration of the loans, depending on the borrower, as well as how many times a loan can be rolled over. Those services are under plenty of scrutiny here in Canada, too. In 2007, provinces were given more power to regulate the $2 billion industry. Many of them put caps on the fees that can be charged, but critics say those limits are still not enough. According to the Canadian Payday Loan Association, more than 760 quick cash operators loan to about 2 million people each year. The average loan is $280 for a period of 10 days. Most of those borrowers were in Ontario, where payday lenders can charge a maximum of $21 for a 2-week, $100 loan. That works out to an annualized interest rate of more than 500%. Jeffrey Schwartz is Executive Director of Consolidated Credit Counseling Services of Canada. Great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
So one of the things we hear when we take a look at this market, it's true in the U.S. and it's true here, is that this is a part of the market that's not being served by other players. In other words, traditional banks, even credit cards. So this is the unbanked, if you will, and this is a service that they need. People run into trouble, they need cash. This is meeting that need. What's your response to that? There's a reality to that fact.
Well, I think it is a reality, and in fact, consumers do need this. There wouldn't be the demand for it unless they did. I mean, often people call this the loan of last resort. Well, is it the loan of last resort, or is it the loan of easiest resort?
Right.
I mean, listening to your opening, you said, well, you've got people doing this and they get it, no credit check, and within minutes they can get their money. Well, that sounds pretty easy to me. But maybe there are other alternatives for them that they could find to meet their cash needs, and maybe taking a little extra time to do.
What would you put on that list? What are, if somebody needs a quick infusion of cash, and often that's because of some kind of calamity that's befallen them, right? Whether it's their car that broke down or some accident that they've got to deal with. Where can they turn if not a place like this?
Well, there's other subprime loan lenders out there. And I mean, a lot of them left Canada during the recession, but there's other ones that are out there, and they are unfortunately high interest, but not necessarily as high interest as that, and they are installment type loans. So there are other opportunities. And goodness knows, why not go to friends and family? Canadians don't do that for fear that it might be shameful, or they might lose control of their spending, and they don't want to admit to friends or family that they've got an issue with their money. But it's probably not a bad place to be, because the interest rates are probably a lot lower.
We just noticed, you can note that the way these loans work is somebody goes for one, and then they wind up with 10 of them. Average loan length 2 weeks. It suggests that what happens is they get into kind of a revolving cycle of owing more and more money because those rates are high enough that it's impossible to really ever get ahead of it. How serious is that for people? Is it ever just a one-off, or in your experience, when people do go, they wind up in this vicious cycle?
Well, Consolidated, back since I think '09, in 2010, we saw a huge increase in the number of low balance loans, and many of them are the payday loans. And when someone comes to us, it's typical that they may not have just one, but they've got 4 or 5. So that actually falls in line with what you're saying, that they need one to pay off another, to pay off another, and they get caught in this vicious cycle.
And typically, we saw that the loan amount is relatively small. Not for everybody, but it's not as though it's thousands of dollars, not to buy a new car. It's really the size of a paycheck, if you will. And is that typical, that it's a kind of that level of intervention that would keep people from this spiral?
It varies, but we look at it, it can go up to $1,500, but if the stats are showing it's $200 to $300. We're seeing a bunch of that as well. And it's typically, like you said, it's an emergency fund, or in some cases, and this is another stat that we probably should talk about, is half of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck. So sometimes they don't make it to the next paycheck, and that's where something like this would come into play.
So let's talk about that, because that is exactly the kind of the category of person that finds themselves in this emergency situation, too embarrassed to ask friends or family, or it's coming up too often to ask friends or family. What do we do about that problem? Is it one of asking people to do better in saving, or is it actually that people aren't being paid enough, that there's not enough work or enough high enough wages?
Well, it's yes to both, really. I mean, at the end of the day, people need to be able to manage their finances and live within their means. And part of when they do come into an emergency, or there is a drop-off in their income, or even they have to change jobs, they have to have a buffer in place. To go to your point, they do need to save. We recommend that people have a savings, a buffer fund, if you will, of 3 to 6 months. And I don't see many Canadians doing that, especially if they're only living paycheck to paycheck. So they've got to look at different ways where they can manage their finances better. And you know what? You've got to put a little effort into it. And the problem is, if you don't have the tools or resources, some people are afraid to reach out for help.
Now, one of the things we did discover is that the interest rates are by law, and the laws vary, right? It's kind of a patchwork in Canada by province, but they do have to post the rates. Do you think people are educated about what it is they're getting when they go to get these loans? Do they realize just how high these rates are and how hard it might be to catch up?
Well, I think they may realize it's very high, not exactly how high, but I'm not sure that they understand the impact of that it's going to be next to impossible to catch up going down this road. Yeah. They're only thinking, my goodness, I've got to get money, and I've got to get money fast, and this is the way to do it. We
were talking about this U.S. Consumer Protection Agency moving to create federal rules. They will be lobbied heavily in different states, of course. Should there be a federal rule in Canada? Should there be kind of one clear, even if it puts some of these players out of business, rules around what you can charge and how you behave?
Well, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think probably an even set of rules from province to province. I mean, if you go in Quebec and Newfoundland versus some of the rest of the country, the laws are different in how they handle this and who's allowed to play in the sandbox, if you will. And I don't think it's a bad idea to get a level playing field for everybody. But I mean, we want to go back to the fact that, yes, we should legislate it, we should make sure that people are aware, but at the same time, people have to take responsibility to live within their means.
All right, Jeffrey, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Jeffrey Schwartz, Executive Director of Consolidated Credit Counseling Services. Still ahead, more exchange. Stay with us.